Hi! For those of you who are new here, hi, my name's Em, but I mainly go by Ginger Bear across my socials. Today, I want to take you on a tour of my art studio that I've been creating and streaming work from over a year now. I mainly do traditional arts, working with watercolours and gouache paint, so I wanted to show you how I made my little home studio cozy and functional for someone streaming traditional arts. I should say, this isn't something that's happened overnight. I've built this up over the last couple of years, and many of the things here have been gifts or I've bought them when discounted, so if you're a baby streamer, don't be discouraged. I've accumulated art supplies over the last 15 years and I have a decent collection of things at this point. In this video, I want to show you the progression of where the room started and what I changed along the way. Designing the space. Let me take you back to the end of 2021. I had claimed the smallest bedroom in the house as my own space. When we moved in, it was the first room we fully tried to get sorted. I went with a clean white aesthetic, which was inspired from all the YouTubers and Pinterest boards I was fawning over at the time, having these bright aesthetic spaces, and the fact that this was a tiny room. Keeping everything white was actually a really good shout. At the time, it served me really well, but the downside came when I finally got a new computer and I got more into streaming. I felt too cramped in my room and I felt overwhelmed all the time with the added equipment. After some life events, my partner and I decided we'd swap rooms so I could have a little bit more space, as he was going back into the office at this point and I needed a new environment to change things up a little. With the previous room, everything was done on an extreme budget. My desk was MDF, I had a couple of units from IKEA. With this new room, yes, it was larger, but I still had to be careful about the space, so we decided, after investing in a fair number of tools from other DIY projects, or more importantly, my partner was going to build a fully custom room from scratch, which was actually the cheaper option than purchasing new things. The thing it did cost us more so though was our time. At the time, the cost of wood was still a sting to our wallet due to a global shortage post-lockdown. We came to the decision to build the room out of plywood. It kept the price reasonable and we could buy large sheets of it from the DIY store. The other benefit was we could stain and paint the wood to whatever colour we wanted. If I did destroy parts of this down the line with paint, then I won't get upset, like if I ruined expensive hardwood. And let's be honest, this is a messy space and I can't be too precious about certain things being stained or ruined. So firstly, we designed the room using Google SketchUp. We took measurements of the room and first built the room to scale. From there, we designed the desk and the storage solutions. Seeing this in the 3D space was really handy, as we could see realistically what was and what wasn't going to work. I needed to keep the room looking as open as possible, but still having lots of options for storage. I'm a walking clutter storm and I needed certain things on hand without getting in the way. An extra benefit of thoroughly designing a workspace in something like SketchUp was to make it very easy to calculate how many sheets of plywood we would really need. This avoided needlessly buying more than we needed, and we adjusted the design to create less wastage of materials. Next up, what we made. First, we have the wraparound desk. Turns out in the last room, I just didn't have enough desk space, so this time round I opted for a desk that goes around half the room, which means I have more workspace and a dumping ground. The depth of the main desk is 70 centimeters, which makes it deep enough to comfortably do A3 and A2 paintings on, and the length is 200 centimeters. The other desk is 50 centimeters deep, which is perfect for sitting beneath the window and doing sketchbook work. We used sheets of plywood that were 3/4 inch thick and reinforced it in areas so as not to waste materials. The desk sits upon a drawer unit, a shelf that holds my PC tower, and another storage unit. One of the main reasons I went for this design is because I hate wobbly tables. A lot of desks these days aren't built very well, and I didn't want to be stuck with yet another desk that bowed in the middle due to poor design. As much as I love a floating desk look, in the long term, a flexing desk would wind me up. Hence why I chose to have a better supported desk, and the desktop having hidden more structural support. Because of this, I can even stand at my desk if I wanted to. Next up, we have the drawers. One of the things I loved about my old room was the IKEA Alex unit. They were so helpful, having something easy to access to store all of my art materials, but I stuck the drawers behind me, which was an absolute faff while streaming. For the new room, we built something very similar to the Alex units, but matched it with the rest of the room. The other improvement we made to have these hand-built drawers was adding drawer sliders that came all the way out. I could actually have access to the back of these, which some of you may know, cheaper drawer sliders don't allow full access to the drawer. I have these all categorized in different mediums, so we have a water paint drawer, the general pens and office supplies, chalk pastels, inks, and a random tech drawer at the bottom. These are my most used items, and they are all neatly hidden beside me for easy access. I know some people like to have a trolley cart for their supplies, but this always looks so messy to me. I like being able to hide the fact that I have a studio sometimes. Next, we have the shelving above the desk. This shelving is a must-have, mainly for having somewhere to bolt my LED panel to in a neat way. These shelves are a nice way to store my Tolkien collection and an assortment of my favourite art books. These doors on the top shelves slide, so it's my messy hidden storage area. The bottom middle is my only openly messy bit, as it's where I keep my paper and I mount my homemade camera arm. Then we have the bench and storage. The bench in this room was a last minute addition when initially designing this room, as it was a great way to add storage but also having extra seating for watching films and playing games at a better distance. Even though I mainly sit on my office chair at my desk, it's nice to have an extra option if I'm spreading out across the room. The original plan was to upholster properly, but decided against it for the cost. Turns out my useless superpower is choosing the most expensive fabric. Whoops. Weirdly, what did work out was the size of this bench. It was the same size as the seating in the garden arbor that my partner had built, so in the colder months, I just steal the cushion for that and place it on the bench. And I stick one of our throws over, and that's all the padding I really need. The drawers underneath are really spacious, and it's where I keep my lesser used things like felt, textiles, and sewing things. On to the fun bit, the decorating. Once I knew what the overall look was going to be, I could now choose how I was going to style my room. I wanted something completely different from the previous studio. The all-white theme was time to go, and I wanted the general feeling of being outside. I wanted something to subtly reflect that, so I decided to make this room look very natural and hobbity. There was only one way this was going to work, and this was to go for some nice earth green tones to match the wood. I admit I'm really fussy about paint colours, and I wanted a colour that felt rich. I went with Craig & Rose's Pullman Green, which I would consider a very mid-green. It's not the cheapest paint, but this room is quite small, so I don't mind spending the money on this occasion. My room faces east, so as soon as I start working, the sun is already above the house and makes my room look a lot darker, which is fine by me as I'm quite sensitive to light. And we varnished the plywood with a clear coat of polyurethane to show off the wood grain pattern and to keep the colour on the lighter side. I very carefully taped around the skirting and the door frames, which somehow I managed to get the cleanest edge from. I didn't do any special tricks for this, but I reckon it was purely a good consistency of the paint, which meant zero touch-ups when needed. Then we have my leaf wall, one of the cutest additions to this room, these fake leaf tiles from IKEA. They clip to each other to create a grid. You can keep them as is, or like in my case, I cut through the soft plastic to round off the edges to give it a more natural look. The colour of the walls match nicely with the tones in the leaves, which gives extra texture to the walls. It also helps create a nice backdrop when taking product photos, so I hang my paintings with a clip off the leaves. The leaf wall also helps hide cables for a cleaner look. Now that the room was built, it was time to fill it with stuff. A note from a stream perspective is that you don't need all the latest, most expensive gear. Compared to my old setup, I focused more on making my room comfortable. My logic was that if I was to spend a lot of time in this room, it had to be as comfortable as possible for me. I know it might not line up with the perfect streaming setup, but the last thing I wanted was to look like I worked in a cookie cutter recording workspace. I'm a gremlin and I like darker spaces for working and gaming. I do adore the futuristic gamer aesthetic, but I know it wouldn't suit me. For clarity, I will note the prices and if things were gifted, donation funded, or discounted. And a number of things in my room have been purchased from money made through streaming and selling artwork because of streaming. So here's the current gear. Let's start with the most important thing here. My computer was around 1,400 quid. I got my computer around 2021. It was a very big upgrade from my last machine, which was a MacBook Pro from I think 2014. Just to note that this was a very generous present from my parents. At the time, I did not have the funds to upgrade, but they knew my MacBook was on its way out and I'd be lost without a functional machine. I managed to grab this machine whilst there was a global shortage of parts, and I managed to get hold of a 3070 graphics card, which at the time was pretty decent. So if you're someone who's curious about the spec, the general brief synopsis is this is an AMD Ryzen 7. As I stated previously, I have an RTX 3070 graphics card and I have about 32 gigs of RAM in here as well. This is my first ever Windows PC, so I bought this as a built order from Overclockers here in the UK, and I did the stereotypical thing where it's got all the fun RGB lights inside. This was my chance to have a little fun. It's lasted well and thankfully has been powerful enough for all my art and gaming needs. I play whatever I want, and it handles video editing and 3D really well. I have a couple of monitors. My main monitor is a 32-inch 4K Samsung monitor, which was purchased during the Black Friday event, and I can't remember the price, but I remember it wasn't too bad, hence why I got it. And I have this monitor mounted to the wall. My secondary monitor is actually an old TV that's well over 10 years old now. The frame is cracked and it's hard to read small text, but I can't complain as it just gives me more usable workspace. I then have my microphone, which I'm using right now. It is a Blue Yeti USB microphone. This was gifted, but this normally runs around 120-ish quid. I'm not fancy and I don't have it mounted on an arm close to my face, but I've managed to tweak the settings enough in OBS to have clear audio even at a distance. The only real issue with this mic is that the mute button is faulty and I can't rely on using it when it's needed most. Thankfully, I have a shortcut on my keyboard to mute very quickly. For one of my headsets, I have the Bose Quiet Comfort 35, I think they were called at the time. I don't know if they're called something else now. We've had them for quite a while. These are borrowed. These technically aren't mine, but they're my partner's. Thankfully, he never uses them anymore unless he's traveling. So for now, I have stolen them. The main thing that I love about these are noise cancelling headphones. So once they're switched on, I can't hear anything, which is great for concentrating on streaming, watching films, listening to music. The whole thing. The extra great thing though is the Bluetooth range on these are fantastic, as they don't disconnect when I go downstairs, and the battery life is insanely good. I also have some AirPod Pros. These usually run at about £229, I think, brand new, but these were partially paid through, I think, last Christmas, so Christmas money went towards that. I had these for over a year now, as I initially got them as I sometimes have issues with sound in public places, and there was a time I couldn't get the Bose to function properly, so these came in handy. The downside with the AirPods though is the battery doesn't last as long as I need them to. I can stream up to 7 hours sometimes, and I have to put these back on charge when I am nearing the end of stream. To note, I do like being able to switch the noise cancelling on and off very easily, so for overall headphones, these are discreet and amazing. I'm just the problem because I stream for far too long. For the webcams, I use a Logitech C920, which usually runs for about $89.99, which I think is the current price. I know they fluctuate quite a bit every now and then. So one of these was bought, the other one was gifted. I have not one but two of these. They're a staple webcam that's been on the market for a number of years now, and you can still pick these up for a reasonable price. As long as you have good lighting, they'll do you just fine. I still have some people shocked when I mention that I'm using these cameras. Here's what it looks like when you have bad lighting in comparison to when you have good lighting. You see there's a huge difference. If you're with lower budget items, there's always a workaround to get the best out of them. I do currently want a new art camera that I think is over £1,000. Yeah, I know, it's bad. I know that's a lot. Can I afford that? No, until then, I'll keep using these cameras. I do also happen to have an iPad Pro, which is the 12.9-inch 5th generation with the 2nd gen Apple Pencil. This has really been a useful tool to do work away from the desk. I have the app Procreate on here, which I use to do pretty much all of my line work, and when I'm painting traditionally, I use this as a display for references. I am grateful for the freedom having this gives me. I use this to create all my elements for stream, like my overlays and my emotes. I can easily throw it in a bag and sketch on the go. I don't know what I'd be doing without this, in all honesty. For other bits of tech, I also have a Nintendo Switch on my desk, and occasionally on stream I like to play some Nintendo games, so the Switch is permanently in my room now and it's kind of just pushed into the corner. I just have it connected to my computer with the £10 cam link for streaming, but other times it comes in handy for Discord calls. It's nice to be able to just stream straight into video calls, as it feels a lot more sociable. For the mouse, I have a Razer Basilisk Ultimate, I struggle to say Basilisk, can you tell, with the docking station. I bought this with donations, but I also got this heavily discounted in a Black Friday sale. A lovely upgrade for gaming, and the design is quite harsh, but the shape is great to hold, and the hotkey buttons on the side are really helpful. Also, the mouse on the docking station lights up and can be switched to whatever colours I like, so I can change them to match my mood and my setup. For the keyboard, I have a Logitech MX Keys Mini, which also bought during a Black Friday sale. This has been a recent purchase, as my cat spilled a jar of paint water over my previous keyboard, which was, I think, a ducky keyboard, if I remember. I will pop it in here. I chose to get the MX Keys Mini though as a replacement, as it's the closest thing to a MacBook keyboard I can get, as I prefer the lower profile of the keys and I find it more comfortable to type. Also, a massive bonus is that the battery lasts forever, and while streaming, because it's Bluetooth, I can just chuck this to the side and have more space for my materials. I do also happen to have a graphics tablet. I have the Wacom Intuos pen tablet in the size medium, I think it is, and this was gifted to me. And as I'm filming this, like mid-February 2024, I am aware of the Wacom scandal, but I have owned this graphics tablet for the past couple of years, and I will keep using it until it breaks. I've been using the graphics tablet since I think 2005 for everything digital, and I haven't yet tried out any competitors, but I wouldn't mind trying something new, especially as I've always wanted a screen graphics tablet since forever, but they've always been too expensive for me to invest in. It's always been a dream of mine to own one, so maybe one day. Next up, we have the art supplies. The closest thing I have to hand is this clear plastic tray I bought from Muji years ago. ago. It's the perfect fit for all my pencils and it's easy access while still being a stand for my second monitor. I have an assortment in here. I have watercolor pencils, polychromos, Inktense pencils, a little bit of everything, and it's all there, easy to grab. I have all the drawers to my left organized, but once again, I am running out of room for things. Here in the top, I have my watercolors and my gouache paint. Nearly everything in here is from Winsor & Newton, but I also have a Himi gouache palette and a metallic watercolor set from Derwent. Next is the office supply drawer. This is home to the fine liners, colored pencils, highlighters, rulers, some calculators, and so on. Then we have mainly the chalk pastel drawer. This is my most hated art supply. Thankfully, I don't often touch this one. Then we have some inks and some random bits here and there. And this drawer is never touched. I should probably reorganize at this rate, as it was supposed to be for painting miniatures, but the hobby is too expensive. I can't afford to get into this. And finally, we have the tech drawer filled with cables, cameras, controllers, and adapters. The golden rule is to never throw anything tech related out, because you never know when you'll need a cable from 15 years ago. And behind me is a small drawer unit where I keep random bits of extra paint, watercolors, acrylics, I think some sandpaper as well, and some animation cell paint. Now for the sketchbooks. I'm a really forgetful person, and if I just stick a sketchbook on a shelf, I will forget to use it. I purchased the shelves from IKEA and put them on the back wall in my old studio, and I felt bad that I didn't have a place for them in my new room. It took a while, but I decided to cut them down and mount them to the wall in the new room where I had some empty space. This way, I can now openly display all my sketchbooks that I'm working on in a nice way. And let's just say, I'm definitely a maximalist. Plus, it's really easy to grab what I need when I get raided and want to show off some artwork. As you can see, I mainly use Moleskine sketchbooks as I like the quality and they are easy to get hold of on sale whenever I need them. So for me, that's a very easy win. Moving on to making things comfortable and cozy. This year I've been focusing on lighting. My room has been quite dark, but at the same time, adding too much light will trigger migraines for me, so I have to be careful. I have one main light that provides all the lighting for my streams. I use this large LED panel I got from IKEA a few years ago, which lights up my desk and me, so there's no need for extra light for my face. The downside is for this to work with my art camera, I need to have light at full brightness, which, like I said, migraines are a pain, but when I'm not using it for streaming, I can turn the brightness down with a remote control and change the warmth of the light. Extras for lighting, I have a cute little pencil light, again from IKEA, which is there for mood lighting and myself. I have some curtain fairy lights from Amazon behind me that I got for a previous Christmas, but decided to keep them up all year round. These are really handy as I don't have power on the other side of the room, but the USB is long enough that I can connect it to the computer. And for the lighting, last but not least, is the newest addition to my room. I swapped out the previous lampshade for spotlights for color changing bulbs that I bought from Wix. With this, I can have a different feel to my room just by changing colors using an app on my phone or using the A-Lady, and because they are spotlights, I can point them to the darkest parts of the room. I can flick between having my room feel more like a hobbit hole or an e-girl paradise. Whatever, really. For my chair, I think I have a Herman Miller sale chair, which normally retails for quite pricey, as I found out. And I think the price for this particular chair, if it was brand new, would be about 756 quid. I think. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot. Chairs are a weirdly important thing. I know some people don't care about them. They really range in price and some look pretty, but are super uncomfortable. I got a lucky upgrade from my previous chair. I had a really old IKEA office chair that was falling apart and gave me really bad back pain from sitting on it for long periods of time. But thankfully, I got this Herman Miller sale chair secondhand and for free. At this point, the armrests are well loved and the padding needs replacing, but I can't complain with how comfy in general that this chair is. The only thing I wish I had sometimes was a headrest for long gaming sessions. Now we have the cute little extras. I have a diffuser that I use almost every day. I have a collection of cups that I have on rotation, a nice water flask. I've also got some plushies. I don't often sit on my bench, but I have a few plushies that I swap out every now and then. I think they're just cute, fun, and hilarious, and I have them sit on my lap sometimes when I stream. Candles, especially good for the winter. I normally stock up on the IKEA vanilla candles, but on special occasions I do have some fancier candles. The current one I have out is bergamot and honey. I have a fair few hidden gaming sculptures. I love my games, and I have a few gaming sculptures that I have out on rotation. Currently have my little master sword out with a cute 3D printed guardian, and in my shelf above me I have Alduin from Skyrim watching over my room. I also have some plants. I do have a few real plants tucked around my room. Some are real, some are fake, though I often forget to water the real ones, so I chose some that didn't require much maintenance. I'm probably missing a few things here and there, but I do try to organise my room every few months to keep things fresh. I think you get the gist of what everything looks like now, and this is everything at the moment. All in all, I understand that I'm in a privileged position to have my own space, and it's been a few years getting to this point. To the people that have been following and supporting me through this journey into streaming, I want to say thank you. You make everything worth it. I have a cozy space to live and create, and you give me a place to be myself and share my thoughts and creations, and for that I'm grateful. If you're also a creator looking to build your own studio, just remember things take time and nothing goes to plan, and there will always be something that you have to compromise on. The perfect space doesn't exist, and the thing that matters most is that you're comfy enough in your space to keep producing work that you love. Add things that make you happy and make your life easier. It's easy to be swept up with ideal offices and studios, but everyone's needs are different, and don't be afraid to do your own thing and make it yours. And if you got to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching all the way through. I very much want to start branching out from Twitch and start making more of a thing out of YouTube. So if you liked what you saw, then please drop a like, a sub, so I know what you want to see and if you're interested in seeing what I make. My aim is to make more content about my own personal work, educational art videos, and videos on how to stream yourself, mainly prioritizing traditional art streaming. I usually stream live on Twitch Mondays to Fridays between 12 till 5 UK time, unless I'm ill, and I'm ill a lot, let's be honest, if you do know me. So don't be a stranger and join the Discord to be kept up to date with any changes. So with that, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Don't be good, and hopefully catch you in the next video. Bye!